Charles Manson, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, all those are very known, very insane men, but they are nothing compared to this man, Joseph Fritz. In 1984, when it was a good and sunny old day, Joseph Fritz was working down in the cellar, or the basement as it is known in the States. When he was down in the cellar or the basement, he was just moving around stuff. He was just figuring stuff out until he asked help from his daughter, Elizabeth Fritz, which was 18 at the time. Now, Elizabeth Fritz was completely oblivious what was about to happen to her at that very moment. But as soon as she went downstairs, her father was there with a cloth. That cloth was full of ether, which is known for knocking somebody out when it's applied to the face. Mostly this region where oxygen needs to breathe. When woken back up, Elizabeth was shocked in complete darkness, knowing that something like this just happened. It kind of felt like a fever dream to her. She couldn't really see anything since it was completely dark down there in the cellar. She just freezes up. She doesn't do anything. She can't see anything. So she just stays there, hoping her father would come back and try to help her. Maybe that she got forgotten and the father went upstairs and just did his daily routines as a mistake. But a couple days later, Joseph will come back, not here to save her or concerned about her, but knows exactly what's about to happen in his head. Joseph, at that time, was planning to rape his own daughter. Maybe for a month, a year, as many years as he planned, to keep her as a sex slave all the way in the deep, deep back of the basement. Now, this basement wasn't well kept. As they did clean it, it wasn't very sanitized or anything. There was a bunch of bugs, it was very damp, and very just not a place that is conditioned to live in. So Elizabeth became ill over time as she lived in the basement. But Joseph did not care one bit at all. He still had this mentality that his own daughter was his sex slave and kept her there for 24 years for his own pleasure and entertainment. This is disgusting. And anybody, this man is not sane. Now, keeping his daughter as a sex slave was only the surface of what he has done of a crime, but the next crime that he committed was murdering his own child / grandchild. Now, keeping your child, your daughter, left in the basement for your own pleasure with no protection, by the way, and just keep repeatedly, that's going to obviously lead a child to be born. And there's plenty of babies that have been born as Joseph as a father and Elizabeth as a mother. But one did not make it for a very sad reason. And that reason being that it simply could not live in the terrible conditions of the basement. Michael Fritz, a beautiful baby boy, was birthed by Elizabeth Fritz in that basement. Now, with his mother being ill and Joseph not caring whatsoever was going to happen to that child, the baby only lasts 66 hours of how terrible the conditions were in that basement. It was damp, it was dry, dust everywhere. It could not breathe. So it suffocated. The baby suffocated because of Joseph Fritz pleasure and insaneness of just keeping his daughter in a basement to have intercourse with. You could believe this man is the most monstrous person. He's a monster, honestly. Now you may be wondering, where's the mother? Where's her siblings? Where's uncles, aunts, and anybody else that is related to Elizabeth? Joseph had the bright idea to surprisingly lie to his own family that Elizabeth mysteriously ran away into a cult, kind of like the Normans or Heaven's Gate, or just some type of cult where they just do sanest things and they run away from their family and completely go off the grid. And without seeing her or any contact of her, the family believes that 100% because they can't confirm it. Even though they are living, she is living right under their feet. Now there is some light to the tunnel. Remember when I said that there was multiple children that were Joseph the father and Elizabeth as a mother? Well, one of those child got to be able to put a switch into Joseph and was so ill and so distraught and broken and all these awful things that it somehow tugged Joseph's strings, which he took her to medical care, which was an easy escape for Elizabeth. She went straight to the police department and spilled everything on the table, and everything was settled. Now, with any crime, there needs to be a court accounted for. That goes with DUI, battery, GTA, any minor stuff, even as in just stealing candy from a store. There needs to be some type of justice and saying into it. So when this case came around, the judge and everybody else in the room asked Joseph this one simple question: did he feel guilty of what he has done to his daughter, children/grandchildren, and even family? And he said he did not feel guilty whatsoever. This man is sickening. Now, a couple years down the road, karma does his thing. Karma comes into Joseph's life and puts him in jail for a very long time, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because it wasn't life. It wasn't life in prison for doing those heinous things. Joseph is planned to get released from jail and from any psychiatric asylums in the year of 2024, which means this man is walking in Australia freely for raping his daughter 3,000 times, murder of his children/grandchildren. I keep saying that because that's what it is, and negligence of those children. Those are 3 heavy-hitting crimes, and this man is going to be walking among everybody else next year in 2024. But there is some also good news. Elizabeth Fritz is doing way better than she was. Now, there is still some trauma, which is always going to be carried around her. It's never just not gonna leave. But she has been in therapy for a while. She is more open in telling her story. And she's just living life as best as she could, and not in darkness, and just waiting to be a toy to her own father, with no help, with feeling ill every day, 24/7, for the next 24 years. She finally is able to live life.